And away we go. 30 seconds late. Sorry. I had to step away for a second. Oh, man, a box. You just like to bring up the most controversial stuff right off the bat. I think I'm going to do Man in the Box. I think I'm going to abandon Man in the Box. I don't know what to think. Hey, well, happy Thursday. Thursdays are always happy. I have had a horrible week, under the gun, high pressure, and I live and wait for Thursdays. It's just a chance to unload, talk with you folks, and you talk to me, and I feel so much better than I ever do on Thursdays. And I had 2 dental appointments today, which turned out to be nothing, but I got all worked up for them. So let's do an introduction. Welcome to ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything digital alchemy. I am the aforementioned Dave Rush, your tech from Texas, and this is ADRAMADA. I love technology. I love researching it. I love trying it. Wrong res. I think it's the wrong res too. But I turned the camera on 10 minutes ago and said, you know what? I've learned my lesson. I am not going to screw with things today with 10 minutes to go. So we'll call it Close Up Oh Dave and live with it. Thank you. This show is devoted to disseminating information on the use of technology, and in particular, we're interested in how the advancement of technology impacts our daily and long-term lives, our quotidian lives. Topics are wide-ranging from computer IT, security, energy, automation, AI, music, movies, electric cars, and electric guitars, and all points in between and beyond. And we aren't afraid to delve into social topics, including religion, sex, politics, and COVID. We should just dive right into that one, because there was all kinds of news on that this week. Show news and happenings. Let's deal right off with that. It is Thursday, if you're watching this live, May 11th in the year 2023. And I am the only person I know who's made mention of this in any of my worlds today, in my work world, in the Discord world, in this world, and other places that I inhabit that you don't know about. It is National Twilight Zone Day, which is a really amazing thing, because for any of these other kind of observance days, there is a complete and understandable explanation on why this day was chosen for such things. Such is not the case with National Twilight Zone Day. So, like the horror, sci-fi, mystery of the Twilight Zone show, the origins of Twilight Zone Day are shrouded in mystery. The show launched on October 2nd in 1959. Nothing to have to do with May 11th. Ran for 5 years, ended on June 19th, 1964. Nothing to have to do with 5 years. Rod Serling, the creator and ostensible star or narrator, if you want to call him that, has no personal dates that involve May 11th. He wasn't born on or died on. I was all over the web today because I never knew the answer to this, and I thought surely by now the internet, which knows all and tells all, you know what? One of you guys who, one of you ladies who, one of you persons who, one of you them, shem, sheem, sham, flim flom, who are willing to touch the AI monsters. Maybe the AIs know. See what you can find out. So there's lots of speculation out there, but there's absolutely nothing definitive that I've been able to run into. And I've dabbled in this in years past. Today I put probably a little more time into it than I usually do. But I will mention this one thing. My connection to Twilight Zone. It's a tenuous one, but it is fun. It's kind of interesting. The second airline I worked for, the first airline that I worked for was a cargo airline. And we flew Piston Twins, and we finally got jets on the property, all Lear jets. It was fun. But all we did was drag boxes. And dragging boxes is fun because in the world of airline pilotry, you are either a cargo pilot or you are a passenger pilot. And the long-standing joke among passenger pilots is, I'd rather fly boxes, or maybe this is the other way around, cargo pilots. I'd rather fly cargo because boxes don't bitch. I can say that. It's my show. Being AI. Yeah. All right, we'll get there. So let's finish this thing. So my second airline was a passenger airline, Allegheny Airlines. And we had 5 bases, all in the upper northeast of the U.S., going down as far as maybe Norfolk. Then we had a sister airline who handled Norfolk and inbound, and then we had upper Midwest sister airline that handled, Ohio, Michigan, stuff like that. Anyways, so we had 5 bases at Allegheny, and one of them was in Binghamton, New York. Now, before I ever joined the airlines, I had been to Binghamton a number of times. There is no reason ever to go to Binghamton, New York. It's a nice place. Okay, but they have no tourism attractions. There's no amusement parks. There's no great shopping, anything like that. It's a nice place to go. But that's where Rod Serling is from. There's a street named after him, and that's Binghamton's claim to fame. And so I wasn't based there, but when you're an airline pilot, it's, hey, you know what? You're going to start a trip in the morning out of Bingo. We called it Bingo. So we're going to overnight you in Bingo, and you'll launch out of there. So, meander around Binghamton. It's a nice thing. Continuing on, news of the week. If you haven't been keeping track, you have 2 days to put this together. Mother's Day in the United States is Sunday this weekend. All right, well, let's see who's here and what's going on in the magical, mystical world. Well, that was kind of nice. I'm watching the pre-show crowd, and it was Tullowit, then Tullowit and me, and now we're building. It's doing what it's supposed to do after all this time. Well, let's get things started here. Tullowit, of course, turns up 2 hours before this show starts. Tullowit and I were up early and late last night. I'll share with them. I got up at 2:30 this morning. As I said, high pressure week, lots and lots of work to catch up on. I went to bed fairly early knowing that this was going to happen, but 2:30 is just too early to get up. And I'm starting to work, and when my computer's on, it's always logged into Discord. Tullowit sees me on, and he's got neat stuff going on. I'll let him share that with you over on Discord. But he's probably getting ready for bed. I'm just getting up. It was a morning to behold. So I don't know if, yes, I speak for a living. Why do you ask? So I do a greeting, a little post 5 minutes before the show, and it's usually a movie quote that I put at the end of it. Hopefully something fun, something pithy. And I realized about 10 minutes before showtime, I can't do one of my usual movie quotes. It is, it's that day, right? The Thing. So it's Twilight Zone Day. I said I gotta go look up the top quotes from Rod Serling, and all these sites that have top quotes are usually a sentence or two out of his closing narration speech. But he wrote books, he did interviews, and I found some really fun and interesting quotes by him. And this one is not from the Twilight show. It's just a quote that he has. If you don't know anything about the history, I won't get into the whole thing here, but in short, Rod Serling was a writer from Binghamton, New York. He went to New York City to write. I don't know if he ever went to Hollywood, but he was a writer for all kinds of neat shows, and some of his ideas weren't making it on shows, and he got together with people that he came to know and created the Twilight Zone. And from that, it did its 5 years. And then there was all kinds of spin-off shows that, I didn't bother to look up the names, but I'm certainly seeing them in mind. What were some of the Twilight Zone spin-offs? We control the horizontal. We control the vertical. Whatever show that was. When they made a movie out of one recently. You'll come up with it for me. You do that stuff. Picture, if you will. Thank you very much. Exactly right. A man in a box. You guys are good. Well done. That has context now. Camera looks a little smooshed. Yes, it does. And do I dare do anything here? You know what? Yes, I think I can fix that. Nope, I can't. I could, but I would mess something up terribly, and I don't want to do that. So we'll live without. Digging the shirt. Thanks. Yep, I still have plenty of, what are you doing? Ubuntu shirts, or Linux shirts, but I ordered some tech shirts and decided to pop one of them out today. Nigel Blunt is here from England. We know Nigel. I'll tell you how we know Nigel. You don't, because your name is Nigel. You will not find a ton of Nigels here in the States unless their parents are from England. But welcome. Good to see you again, as always, my friend. Will Shaw is here. Hello, greetings from Miami. So, Will, for those of you who don't know or watching this on the archive later, Will is a Delta captain flying the dreaded bus. You know what's cool about Boeings? Besides everything? Their switchology. Okay, all of their switches and knobs and things like that, they are all designed so that when you push them forward, it's all about engagement of the aircraft, making it do things. Flipping them backward is opposite. I don't think Airbuses have buttons. They got the joystick thing, and they've got the little electrodes that they put on your forehead, but you don't actually fly them. You just kind of, Airbuses are the manifestation of the aircraft of the future. If you didn't know about that, the aircraft of the future, first of all, doesn't need two pilots. It only has one. The cockpit has a pilot, or a person, and a dog. And the person is there to feed the dog, and the dog is there to bite the person if they try to touch the controls. Old airline jokes. And this, you saw this, it got in the way. But I'll bring it up again in a second here. So I hope it's nice in sunny Florida. I heard there was some stuff coming up north. Greetings from Newport, Rhode Island, Jimbo. Jimbo, I think you've been on before, but if not, so glad to see you. That sounds so familiar. We have Newport was one of my Rhode Island, anyways, was one of our that second airline I was with. Regular stops. A lot of lovely overnights up there. Will Shaw, thanks, Dave, for the discouraging news about Cat 6A STP installation considerations. I am now dreading it. Okay, so I won't fill everybody in. Long and short is Will's looking at wiring up his new house with Ethernet. More power to him. And he wants to do the best job he can, so he grabs Cat 6A cable and was foolish enough to ask me if there were any trips or traps that he needed to know about. And if you want to do Cat 6A right, it's painful. It's painful. It's worth it in the end if you need the EMI. So I offered him some of the suggestions, gave him a little video to reinforce my suggestions. But, if you don't need the EMI rejection that 6A provides, you're just in a regular house and you're not going past high current motors and things like that, you can wire 6A as 5, as 5E. So, use Cat 5 crimps and terminators and ends and so forth. But I'd do it. It just takes a little time, a little patience, something to sit around while you're watching the tube and doing some crimping and taking your time. And after a while, you'll get very good at it. Will Shaw, I'll watch for monsters on my wing. There's a thing on the wing. if anybody asks for Will Shatner's most famous lines, most people are going to come up with stuff that he said in Star Trek, but you get the Will Shaw types and a couple others here who are deep into that stuff, and you will know him from Twilight Zone, and you'll have seen him on Perry Mason and all that. But there's a thing on the wing. I won't tell you the rest of the story. Look it up. Let's see. The world, the history behind National Twilight Zone Day is unknown. We don't know who invented it or why. That's pretty much what I read all day today. Nigel, until AI can get my calendar and reminder requests correct, it ain't ready. Fair game. All right, I'll interrupt that with today's story. I had 2 dental appointments today. One at 8:30 a.m., the other at 11:30. And there was a big company meeting. I'm trying to juggle all of those and my other job responsibilities. So that was part and parcel of why I got up at 2:30 and started working so I could get 5 or 6 hours of work under my belt before that first appointment. So it's time to go to the appointment. I turn up. There's one other gent in there. The receptionist asks the other gent, "What's your name?" And "I'm Bill Rogers," or whatever his name was. "Okay, they'll be ready for you in a couple of minutes." "And your name, sir?" "Dave Rush." "Did you say Rush?" And then the questions start. It's like, clearly she's looking at a calendar and not finding me. She says, "This your first time here?" "No, I've been here so often. I own a part of the place now." So I start digging up the notifications on my phone while she's digging up, and she finds my name. "Okay, you are a regular patient, and but I don't see you for today." And so I showed her my phone. "Here's the email that you sent me." And "Oh, I know what happened. That one was scheduled, and then it got rescheduled. I guess we never told you." There goes my morning. That was great. So I that was going to be an hour and a half trip. So bounced back home and got some more work done before the 11:31, which took 8 times longer to drive to and from than the actual appointment. I had some oral surgery about 3 weeks ago. This was a follow-up. Sticks a mirror in there and says, "Yep, things are healing up nicely. Come back in 3 months and we'll do the next thing." Really? Modern dentistry is painless. Except then you got to whip out the old wallet. "And the fact is," says Tuluit, "and the fact that this is a mystery is sort of fitting." Exactly right. A lot of people love that opposite of irony. ChatGPT says, me is what ChatGPT says. I apologize. That's my knowledge cut off. That's right. I wouldn't know any more current information than 2021. I have AI news to talk about today. Not deep stuff. I don't do the stuff that everybody does and that's in the headlines every day. I like the deeper stuff. Scott says, "It's worth noting that there are many unofficial observance days, holidays that aren't widely recognized, but may be celebrated." It's true. Like Star Wars Day. So that was pretty cool. Last Thursday, Star Wars Day. Today, Twilight Zone Days. Good Geek Day for people who share Thursdays with ADRAMADA. "It's possible," says my old great friend Scott Journey, "it's possible that someone or a particular community designated May 11th Twilight Day as a way to honor the show, or it seems." Sure. Yes. May 11th, the founding of Constantinople. Read Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by our old friend Mark Twain, who was inventing spells that Merlin was casting, and he buried Constantinopolitan into one of the spells. Always loved that. Look at you guys all just coughing up your May 11th trivia. Espionage trial of Daniel Ellsberg and Anthony Russo in the Pentagon Papers is true. I actually have figured it out. I read his autobiography on Wick. Outer Limits, thank you so much. That was one of them. The Outer Limits. Serling was transferred to 511th Demolition Platoon, nicknamed Death Squad for its high casualty rate. Is that true? 5'11". I've seen a lot of notes and speculation about 5'11" and having something tied to him. That, you know, if that's true, you may have nailed it. Do you happen to own a hoodie, Nigel Bunt? That I will not explain to anyone. But there are those of us who know it. Sorry, should have put a quote around the post. There were the very long ChatGPT response to why is May 11th Twilight? Okay. This is why I like this. You guys are you're sharp, you're witty, you're informed, and you have access to resources where you're not informed. All right, how are we doing here on time? 21 after. So let's zip through tech news of the week because we got a good show. The AI news of the week. Mattermost. Okay, they're an open source collaboration of a super chat platform. There's a lot of tech companies that use Mattermost. Well, they have announced that they're going to integrate AI into their chat host system so that it becomes an intelligent moderator and participant. They say light touch. We'll see what that all means. There's a lot coming down on here, and they swear that their first and primary interest as they perform this integration is going to be safety and security of data and information. Okay, true, not true, don't know. We'll see when we take a taste of the pudding. I'm looking at it in the broader scope. If we've already seen AI getting integrated into browsers, operating as standalone, integrating into other things. So this is the first time that I am aware of it being integrated into a chat platform. And if one outfit does it, others will follow. Elon Musk announced stepping down as Twitter CEO, tweeted today that he has hired a new CEO for, if you didn't know, Twitter has actually been renamed X. So new CEO, she will start in about 6 weeks. Musk will move to the executive chair and chief technology officer. AMD made a stunner of an announcement this week at a trade show. x86 platforms, Broadcom platforms, RISC platforms. What makes those different from one another is the firmware inside the CPU. It's the stuff that wakes up the CPU. It enables the internal functioning of the CPU. It accepts data, knows how to handle it. It's the code books inside the CPU. So AMD has their own, but it's effectively compatible with Intel and vice versa. Broadcom, totally their own. They do things their way because their, CPUs are so dramatically different. RISC, reduced instruction set computer. RISC had a big jump, 15 years ago, 20. And then, they've kind of been out there, and they're sort of surging again because what RISC has inside of it is different than the other two big platforms. The two big platforms, their internal CPU firmware is proprietary. RISC is open source. So if you want to use their stuff and you want to design a CPU around it, cool bananas. Well, they are the only open source out there. The internal firmware in AMD CPUs is called AGISA. Somebody will correct me and we'll all be right. But in short, it's AMD Generic Encapsulated Software Architecture, a library that serves to execute the initialization of the AMD 64 platform on motherboards. It's integrated into the BIOS. It controls the CPU. It controls RAM, internet. Well, they are looking at and saying, what's the year? 2026. By 2026, it doesn't say that they're going to fully convert, but they say they're going to support OpenSIL, which is kind of comparable to the RISC environment. So that's a shocker. We'll see what happens. I read about something today that doesn't have much direct impact on me today, and probably you, but it will. So I'm loving this and I want to share this with you. There is a utility, a program that's been created by some developers out there called Virt-Resize, Virt-Resize. It is a utility, it's a tool that can simply resize KVM virtual disk. KVM, not keyboard, video, monitor, or mouse, but KVM, the component in Kimu KVM for doing virtualization. So when you're creating a virtual machine, you create a virtual disk, and there's all kinds of virtual disks out there. KVM has its own quasi-proprietary disks, and VMware's virtual disks are kind of manageable. I mean, you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, you can do neat things with them. And they're the ones who kind of stand head and shoulders above all the other virtual disks. Well, with this new tool for KVM virtual disks, this is one of those things that gives me long-term hope that says maybe the others will follow suit. When you work with VirtualBox, right? That's our go-to virtual machine these days. Works great on Linux, works great on Windows machines. You have, at the time of disk creation, two options. You can create a VirtualBox proprietary virtual disk, a VDI disk, or you can make a VMware disk. And I have never made a VMware disk because I seldom have a reason to use VMware. I live and die in VirtualBox. But once you've got a VDI, you're stuck with it. You can't transfer it. You can't convert it to a VMware disk, which if you're going to do any kind of conversion, that's what it's going to be. You can't make it bigger. You can't make it smaller. The only thing you can do is back it up, destroy it, and make the right size that you wanted. So this Virt-Resize utility gives me hope that maybe the nice folks at Oracle will do some development on making their virtual disks a much more manageable thing. June 2022, New York State becomes the first state to pass legislation giving consumers the right to repair electronics. It was a very narrow right to repair law. Nobody's followed suit. 3 weeks ago, the state of Colorado became the first state to pass Consumer Right to Repair Agricultural Equipment Act. So we're kind of nibbling away at these right to repair issues, but this one's really cool. Not only is it right to repair, but the bill, which passed hugely, there we go, requires manufacturers to provide farmers with manuals for diagnostic software and other aids. So not only right to repair, but the vendor has to provide you with some tooling to do that. So exciting stuff. We're chipping away at the right to repair stuff. I got to mention, I got 2 upcoming shows I found in my huntings this week. We're going to do a Rocky show because I like Rocky. You could do what we're going to do on Rocky, on Alma, that's the name I was looking for. Certainly on Red Hat, CentOS Stream. CentOS doesn't exist. Fedora. We're going to do a high availability Apache cluster. So we've done clusters before. We've done Beowulf clusters, but we haven't done a high availability one. High availability says if multiple machines are functioning, they work collaborative. As a web server, I'll hand out a page, you hand out a page, I'll hand out a page. I'm really busy. Would you hand out the next 4 or 5 pages, whatever? And one can go down, the other one recognizes that it's gone down and says, okay, I'll handle this until somebody tells me otherwise. So I'm going to do a high availability. I'll just do 2 nodes and a controller probably. Very excited about that one. With that one, when I do it, we may at that time open the show up to expand to 2 hours. I hate doing stretched episodes across multiple shows. It's just messy, so we'll do that. Another upcoming show, I've had this in my notes for a long time. I've decided to do this one in short term. 5 free online cybersec utilities for small businesses. All right, let's see who's coming up into the world here. Oh, stop it. Okay, nothing new there. Jipper AI is the one I'm checking out next. Well, let's win one for the Jipper. Sorry about that. If I were moderating or being a participant in a YouTube channel, in a chat channel, that's what I would have typed. And as Scott knows, I have no filter and I see no lines. All right, almost done with all the pre-project stuff, but got to do the personal stuff here. Huzzah! This came in much sooner than it was expected. This thing wasn't due in until tomorrow. It arrived, I don't know, 3-4 days ago, something like that. So there goes my evening. This is the old chair cylinder for the chair I'm sitting in right now, which I would raise up, and then in an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, half an hour, you never know, it would just drop down a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, and sit there. And then a short time later, a long time later, it would drop down another some amount. And sometimes it would say, you know what, I've just had enough, and drop down the whole thing and go back up and hope it stays up for a while. What a pain in the sitting area, yeah? So per your guys' excellent suggestion and mine, we were all thinking along the same lines. I did some hunting, I did some learning about these cylinders. This is tapered, and it's an industry standard taper. This is tapered, and it's an industry standard taper. This cylinder is tapered, and this is a stock diameter. So 80-90% of the cylinders that you got there and hunt for and purchase, this one, by the way, the replacement one for this one was $17 after shipping. Yay! So what you've got to care about is how long the body is, how much of this extends below your chair wheels, and how much throw this thing has. What's the minimum exposed amount? What's the maximum exposed amount? And you don't have to replace identical for identical size. You can find something that suits you. They make these things for bar stools that'll go up 2 feet or down 2 feet. Mine has a 5-inch throw. This is not the same size body as the new one that I've got. It's not the same size throw or the same size extension here. But the max total and the min total were about the same as my chair, so good enough, got it. And the joy of this thing, you can do the whole job with 2 tools, an Allen wrench and a sledgehammer. And seriously, that's what you have to use. These are tightly press fit in, and so you gotta get some support on the chair thing and get a ring around here and hammer it out of the chair part, and then out of the wheels part, you got to hammer it out of the wheels part, and that gets all supported. That was fun. I had to power hammer that thing. But took about 45 minutes, and I found 11 cents in the chair. I also discovered it's a Franken chair. Whoever built this thing took it out of parts, and they bored out new holes and elongated holes, but whatever, works great. Less filling. So, yeah, I can do that. Well, is there a point? Yeah, what the heck? I got this. Let's do this. So there it is sitting on my desk. It looks... Oh, I see why, yeah, because it... Oh, I understand. It's this thing that's doing it. That's why I look so ugly. I'm trying to make the camera look good, or the pictures look good that I'm going to show you later. And so I've got this elongated. That's why the camera view is bad. it is the price of doing what we do here. Last thing in personal news, big travel weekend for me tomorrow afternoon. Again, it could be another early get up so I can work and get my hours in for the day, because we're going to make our last trip to Lubbock, Texas, home of Texas Tech University, TTU, where my son will walk the plank for commencement with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering with his cum laude ribbons. And we're going to kill 3 days up there, Friday night, Saturday day, and we'll be driving back Sunday. And he's going to follow back the following day with his big Yukon full of stuff. And that's wonderful. It means I don't have to help load it out. All right, let's see what's going on in messages, and then we'll get on to project. Oh, this is a fun project. This is one that I've had on my list for a very long time. I'm actually correct. It's Gipper. Sure. Got to win one for the Gipper. Name for Ronald Reagan, huh? The great orator. Oh, okay, Ronald. Congrats to Ben. Thank you. Scott, I'm sure you heard, but on the off chance that you didn't, Janelle's son got married last weekend. Beg your pardon. All right, well, let's talk project. The title of today's show is Verifying Downloads Using Hashing. So it's a little deeper than that. We're probably going to run out of time. What am I at here? Yeah, I've only got 23 minutes left, but we'll see how it goes. So let's briefly talk about what a hash is. A hash is a really cool and amazing thing. It is a function. It is a mathematical formula, and it's a one-way formula. It's really cool. You put in some information, bytes. It can be a complete file. It can be text that you're typing in, whatever. And then the formula is run against that input, and an output is generated, and no matter how many characters you put in, the output length, the number of bits in the output answer, is always the same. Never changes. The formula is very sophisticated. So sophisticated that if I take a 10-byte file and I change one bit in there, the output is going to change massively. I'm going to demonstrate this for you in just a couple of seconds. Or if I take a 10-petabyte file and I change one bit in there, the output changes dramatically, drastically. I said Sam there. It should be same. There we go. Save that. Now, I was fighting a little bit today with OBS. I'm not sure what's going on. I did some reboots, and I've done a lot of reconfiguring on OBS Studio in the last week as it was working for a living for other projects. And it's not doing some things that I wanted to, and I can't share live with you some things. So I took a lot of screenshots today, and that's what we're going to work mostly from. It's a one-way function. That means it's going to generate its output. It might be a 32-bit character, a 32-byte hexabyte character. You can't do anything with that. You can't reverse engineer it. That's what we mean when we say one way. So it's not an encryption algorithm. That's the really important thing to walk away from here. There's probably 5 really important things, but one of the important things is while it is used as an element in certain encryption algorithms, in and of itself, it's not an encryption algorithm because it can't be unencrypted. The results can't be unencrypted. Because the formula generates a unique, hopefully, value for any given input. 1 byte of input, 10 bytes of input, 9 different bytes of input, 9.8 bytes of different input. It's always a different number, but always the same length. And because that number ostensibly is unique, that number can represent a fingerprint for the information that you put through the function. And that's what makes it really magical and really cool, and how we can use it as a verifier. All right, not going to go into that. So there's a lot of hashers out there, a lot of hash functions. The oldest one in use, and it shouldn't be used anymore today, but the oldest and historically the most popular was one called MD5. MD stands for Message Digest. Again, means fingerprint for all intents and purposes. 5, it was the 5th generation of them developing this algorithm before they released it to the public. MD5 came out, it was developed in 91 and came out in 92. And it was good, especially in its day. Now, after almost 3 decades, over 3 decades of use, it has been cracked. I'll get into what that means in a second. But of course, other hashing algorithms were being developed and used all during the life cycle of MD5, so they're better, stronger, faster, lighter, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. The goal of all of them is to generate an absolutely unique fingerprint for anything that we put in. And this is where hacking comes in, or what we call hacking. It has been discovered, first of all, by accident, and then later on on purpose, that let's say I put in this 50-byte file and run it through hash algorithm and it comes up with a number. And then I run this 470 megabyte file through there, and it's obviously got to be very different. Oh my gosh, it happened to come up with the same output number. That's called a collision. And when they discovered methods to be able to do that on purpose, hey, here's one that generated a hash value of this, I'll be able to create my own file and make that same output. Well, that's considered hacked, and MD5 is hacked. Shortly after MD5 came out, Ripe MD came out. Bigger, better, stronger, faster, and has never been hacked, but it never got adopted because at the same time there was this huge effort to come up with another competitor called SHA, S-H-A. SHA-0 existed for a couple of minutes. SHA-1 has been around for a long time, and SHA-1 has a whole bunch of different sub-SHAs. Same thing happened with SHA-2, and we are now into SHA-3. I'll share some of this with you as I get the slides. I just want you to kind of hear this and lay things out. MD5, the output result is a 128-bit value. Now, nobody can look at 128 bits and internalize that, and so they are expressed as 32 hexadecimal values. You're still not going to be able to internalize it, but you can see it. You can put it next to another 32-bit hex number and easily compare the two. And of course, we can have computers do that. All right, let's get the slideshow on the road. Well, that's just not right. You can't imagine how much time I put into making these slides work and put them in order. And they're missing some. Oh, I can fix this. I need to fix this. Stand by. I renamed a lot of them, and this thing is still living on the old names. So quick fix on this. Pull that. Dump these. I was using my graphics viewer program just to make sure I had them all in order. I'm reading my outlines and my notes and my scripts and all that, and they're looking great. And I just totally forgot about, wait a minute, you got to update the shower in OBS. There we go. No, don't do it that way. We've learned our lesson about that. Shows, today's show, verify, images, there we go. Now everything is normal and pretty and open and okay. And here we go. Okay. So here's a site online. It's an MD5/SHA-1 hash generator. MD5 outputs 128-bit, 32 hex characters. The SHA-1 outputs 160 bits, 40 characters, 40 hex characters. And I'm going to put the link to this particular online hash generator in the chat channel. So this is an MD5 hash generator, and this is a demo one. I can't put a big file in here. All you can do is type into this box, and when you get all done typing something in, then you click the generate button, and it will generate a hash value. Prove it, Dave. I can. So I ran this thing a couple of times, 2 times in fact. I started by typing in this sentence. Quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog's back. Old classic. And the MD5 32 hex character output was this number, and it also generates a SHA-1 output. So here was the 40 character SHA-1 output. Then I made one minor change to the quick brown fox. I made it the quick crown fox. And look at the difference here. I'm a little bit cut off. Can I get that salvaged? Maybe. Yeah, there we go. So look at the differences between the resulting MD5 for the sake of 1 bit. And the same thing with this SHA output. It's hugely different. And so there's some uniqueness. What if this was the contents of a file? By the way, somebody once asked me if I'm running a hash against a file, does the file name count? No, it doesn't. It only the contents of the file count. Unless you included the file name in the contents of the file. You get that idea. RipeMD was 160-bit output, but all the SHAs use that too. You can tell how many bits are in the output of a SHA, except for SHA-0 and SHA-1, because they will say something like SHA, maybe SHA-2 dash, and then a number. SHA-2 128, SHA-2 160, SHA-2 256, SHA-2 512. Those final numbers tell you how many bits are in the result. So SHA-1 and SHA-2, they were both 160-bit, 40 hex characters. All the SHA-0 and 1. All the SHA-2s, they supported 224, 256, 380. I wrote down 385. It's got to be 384. Yeah, and 512. Third generation came out in 2015. Most people aren't using third generation SHA, but 224, 256, 384, 512, and there's a couple of variants even called Shake 128 and Shake 256, SHA KE. All right, let's move on. So here's another site. It's another demonstrator, and it will demonstrate. I love this site. I want you to go play with this one. So I'm going to put this in the chat feed. This will generate SHA-256 hashes, and what's really cool about it is it's real time. So you're going to type into the input box whatever you're going to type. You can say I put in here the quick brown fox. As I typed one character, the SHA-256 was something, and I added the second character, and it real-time updated this. And of course, at any time, you can copy and paste these things. Let's get that back blown up a little bit. All right, so really cool, fun site to play with. And so I did the same experiment with this one, with SHA-256 that I did earlier. I ran quick brown fox and quick crown fox, and you can see just an enormous difference in the SHA-256 output results. So what do we do with these hashes? Well, there's a few things you can do. I'm looking at this. There's no way I'm going to finish in 10 minutes. But we'll do what we can. Your computer system, your Windows system, your Linux system, your Mac system has user accounts and passwords in them. Except it does not have passwords in them. It has hashes of passwords in them. So when you go to log in, you type in your password on a keyboard. My password is password. It's going to go through some kind of hashing algorithm before it goes over the line, and then your system accepts that hashed value, checks the hash value in its wherever they're stored, and says, yeah, you used a legitimate password, you didn't. So passwords don't go across wires anymore. So that's one of the places hashes are used for. They're used in digital signatures, they're used in document management, and here's what we're doing with it today, or possibly moving into next week. We create a file. Somebody creates a file. To make sure that when somebody downloads that file, we're going to generate the hash value for it. Maybe an MD5 value, maybe a SHA-256, whatever. And I'm going to post that someplace, probably not the same place where I'm saving the file. But I want it someplace where people can see it and access it. Then when they download the file that I want them to, or want to make available to them, it's their job to run it through a hash checker, see what the hash value of that is, and then compare it with the one that the originator provided. That's how we check the integrity of a downloaded file, because downloaded files can have problems, right? Somebody may have tampered with them, put in malware or whatever. Maybe they just got mangled up or twisted or torqued up somehow in the download process. So when you do a download, not every site does this, of course. They don't necessarily provide the hash values, but lots of them do, especially places that have operating system ISOs that you're going to download. They all post the MD5, the hash value, so you can check that. And we're going to do that here. And let me just go sort of extemporaneously here and finish out some of this slideshow. I want to get a lot of it done. I might even run 5 or 6 minutes long just to do this. So here's a process. I went over to raspberrypi.com/downloads, or I went to raspberrypi.com and selected downloads, found myself on this download page, which has categories of downloads. And I said, on this one, manually install an operating system image, see all download plans. So I selected that. Took me to this page, and I wanted to pick a small file for quick downloading. And so I picked this Raspberry Pi OS Lite. I downloaded it. It's about 380 megs or so. It downloaded in about 10 seconds. And while you can't see it very well here, this link, that's a link, says show the SHA-256 value. So when we click on that, there it is in a box. So I copy and paste, copy that, and then I save it on my local computer. I paste it into a little document file. That's what was in that box. Now we got me through about 5 pages, huh? And now I've downloaded the ISO, the 380 meg ISO. I've got the hash value for it. Now I need to run it against a hasher. So this is I did this on a Linux box. Very, very popular hash checker called GTK hash, all one word. I downloaded and installed that using sudo apt install GTK hash, and then I could run it and it looks like this. Up here is a box for a file name to browse. Up here is a box where I want to put in a known hash value. And I don't need to fill that box in. I can always fill it in later. I don't ever have to fill it in if I want. But once I've got a file name in here, down here on barely visible is a hash button, check hash. So here we go. I used the browser. I browsed for that ISO file that I downloaded. I took a copy of that hash and put it in this box, and then I clicked hash down here, and it generated an MD5 hash, a SHA-1 hash, a SHA-256 hash, and a CRC32. We'll get into that another day. And while you can't see it very well, there's a green check mark here, and over wider on this screen, there's a green check mark over here. That's telling me it's a match. So I didn't even have to know that this was a SHA-256. He said, I'll crank out a bunch of different digests, and I'll compare the value of all of them against whatever Joe puts in here, and let you know if there's a match. Now, what if there's a mismatch? What if the result that I came up with had a different value than what was up here? So what I did as an experiment is I changed the first character of the known correct checksum to something that would be different. So I changed, I think, the B to a C here. And I ran the hasher again, and the green check marks disappeared. There's no match on here, and that tells me I got a bad download, or I have a download that doesn't match the publisher's known, or published at least, hash. So that says I better go and find out why. Maybe the publisher generated a new version and didn't get around to publishing a new hash. Maybe the download was tampered with. Maybe it was damaged during the download process. I don't know. But I know I'm not going to use that until I find out why. There are, of course, hashers that you can use with Windows. I'm going to post a link here. This is a hasher. It's called Open Hash Tab, that when you install it, excuse me, it will integrate into Explorer. So it becomes a context menu. So after I installed it, now I can right click on any file, and down here is an option that says hashes. There it is, down at the bottom here. And I would just click that, and it would generate hash results for me. By default, an MD5, a SHA-1, a SHA-256, and a SHA-512. But that's not all that it can do. This thing is really cool and amazingly powerful. And so if I go click on the settings button right here, I get this magical menu, and this says, which things do you want me to calculate, and lots of other control options. So, okay, that's great if you want one integrated into, excuse me, your file explorer. Nice. What if you want a standalone? Did I do the standalone slide next? I'm kind of winging it here. No. All right, so this is a little bit of a blow up. Oh, you can also do this from command line. In PowerShell, you can use the get-file hash followed by file name. In the Windows command utility, you run the certutil command, space minus hash file, the file name, and then what kind of hash you want to see. And if you run certutil /? Or --? You'll see all the possible options and hashes that you can generate. If you want to run this from Mac on the command line, you can run MD5 followed by the file name, or there's 3 different sets of SHA sums. This one would generate a SHA-1, a SHA-256, a SHA-512. I don't want to work from the command line. I want to work from the graphical. All right, I can't do that. There is one program that I'm aware of that looks and runs as a GUI on all 3 major platforms: Windows, Linux, and what's that other one? Oh yeah, Mac. And I'll throw that last link in here. It's called Quick Hash. In fact, it's called quick hash -GUI. And if you go to the link that I provided down here, you can select the Windows version, the Mac version, or the Linux version. That, kids, is the world's fastest presentation on hashing and using it to verify any downloadable files where the publisher does provide that information. So cool bananas. I'm going to check anything, questions here. Hello, Jason Helms. Hello, I know I'm late getting ready to head on vacation. Hope all is well. Everyone is well here. Going anywhere? Tybee Island in Georgia. Nice. Right at the beginning of hurricane season. All right, well, I'm going to wind it up. Pretty close to on time. Not bad. Got another show next Thursday. I will see you then, of course. And until then, I wish you a great rest of the week and wonderful weekend up and coming. I'm certainly going to have one as I head off to Lubbock. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. And if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And of course, never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, I bid you good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA next Thursday. I'll see you at the Monday AMA. We'll see you at the Tuesday study hall on Discord. Trying to get out of this night stuff, and it just keeps building up. By the way, the Tuesday study hall this week is Andrew Hutz doing objectives from Security Plus. Going to be fun. All right. Good night, everybody. I'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Later.